Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/vocal report. They've got over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. I recently checked out Success Through Stillness, Meditation Made Simple, written by Russell Simmons of Def Jam and Fat Farm fame. Everybody knows who he is. And Chris Morrow. It's narrated by Herbert Point de Jour. Great book. It breaks down a lot of the stigma of meditating, and I found it very easy to listen to. So for those of you guys who enjoy podcasts, make sure you check out what other books they have available. I'm sure you'll be pleased. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/vocal report. Again, that's audibletrial.com/vocal report for your free audiobook.
Previously on the Vocal Minority.
Are you part of the silent majority? Or are you part of the vocal minority?
Motherfuckers, go! Attention, please!
If America can be saved, and I don't know if it's too late, but it'll be through a radio show like this new kind.
This shit here feels like the whole entire world collapsed.
The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers.
It's the vocal minority.
The revolution will be live.
Hey, hello?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
All right, welcome to another episode of the Vocal Minority Report. It's your boy MC. As always, you could have downloaded any podcast in the world, but you're here with us. We appreciate that. Got a great show for you today. Have a very special guest. He's a writer, web developer, chief technology officer, curator of nonfiction, music producer, and one of the lights, maybe, I think. I don't know. So
Depending on how you view it linguistically. Yes.
Okay, all right. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the co-founder of Longform Media, the great Aaron Lammer, to the show.
Hey, hello.
I need some applause or something to.
Yeah, we need like Funkmaster Flex Bomb.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. You know what? Okay. Right. Yes. See. This is a true professional. I need to add in post. We'll see what I can get done. I appreciate it. Like I said, you coming on, and I know you're really busy. So, I've been looking forward to having you on. But I guess the first question is, well, in addition to how you're doing today, is are you on some luxury tour bus right now? You at a 5-star hotel? Like, where do we find you?
I am on a tour bus, but it's not. I don't think it qualifies as a luxury tour bus. It is nice. I shouldn't say that. I'm in Toronto. I'm at the Toronto airport right now, parking lot of the Comfort Motel in Toronto airport.
Okay, all right. Well, that's
no show today, but we're playing tomorrow at TD Echo Beach. So come on out, Toronto. I guess that probably already happened by the time this podcast aired. So I'm sorry, Toronto. If you weren't there, you missed it. But
I'll see if I can edit it real fast. Then maybe just you guys probably be rapping.
Two nights at the TD Echo Beach. So, but I really do recommend this. This Chance the Rapper tour that we're opening for is just incredible. I won't give anything away about it because it's a really amazing stage production that has a lot of surprises. But it's one of the best concept tours I've ever seen. So check it out.
Hey, that's what's up. Yeah, I'm kind of new to Chance the Rapper. Actually, it's kind of the nerd I am. I heard him on Ask Me some NPR show. I can't one of those NPR game. What was it?
That's how he came to you on the wait, don't tell me.
There we go. It was yes. That's the. I guess I'd heard the name before. I'm not that out of touch, but I didn't know his music. You know what I mean? Or I didn't know much about him until until wait, don't tell me. And I was like, all right, let me check this dude out because he's got a little something. But anyway, so no. But speaking of people I did not know anything about, so you're with Francis Starlight, right?
Yeah, our band is called Francis and the Light.
Okay.
Francis sings the songs, and I'm sort of tour managing and DJing, and we write some of the songs together. So it's a little family.
Not that you guys, or Francis needs to hear it from me, but and I assure everyone that I'm not just kissing your ass because you're on the show, but I've been jamming it all morning.
Excellent. Well, the album's free, so anyone who's listening, you just go to farewellstarlight.com. That's STARLITE. Go listen to that. It'll be on Apple Music, Spotify this week, all over the place. There's no barrier to checking it out.
No, not at all. I mean, I literally clicked on the link, it started playing, and it just rolls to the next song. I mean, that's different. I may be, or maybe I'm out of touch, obviously, with music, but I mean, I know. So what's behind the concept of getting it out and just letting people get exposed to it, and then in hopes that they'll then go purchase the album? Is that the thought process?
That player is by Justin Wallet, I'll say. He's a friend of ours and really skilled designer and programmer. My understanding was just that was how Francis wanted to present the album. So.
Okay, I'm glad because I've been jamming it, like I said this morning. So I looked him up because it's someone tweeted that find out why they bridge the gap between indie electronic pop and R&B soul, and I was like, man, that's a very perfect description based on what I heard, because to me
that's also a perfect translation of that concept into like clickbait, like find out why.
Right, exactly. So it worked, man. But I tell you, because when I listened, at least for Can't Stay Party, I was like, this is kind of like a more soulful electronic Phil Collins. I hope that you take that as definitely
we do. Yeah.
Okay, as a compliment, because that's what I was feeling on that one specific groove.
Yeah.
But on the others though, I'm like, okay, I can get with this. I like the voice, I like the music. It's way more funky, kind of soulful funky than I would have initially thought, I guess.
It's always hard to describe things like that. I mean, I think that's another reason to put out music for free, is that when we can have people's primary experience be listening to it or whatever.
Right. Yes.
So
completely uninfluenced, I guess. Right. Yeah. Because I was just absorbing it. All right. So anyway, I did not expect to talk to you while you're on tour, but this is a first for the show, so that's pretty cool.
This is kind of unexpected in my life. Also, I usually live a pretty quiet life in Brooklyn. I run Longform day to day. I go into our office. I drink iced coffee. I don't actually go out very much. So this is a bit of a shock to my system. Also, my normal life is quite different and is more involved in the Longform stuff and doing our podcast, that kind of stuff.
I got you. Okay, so last thing about the tour. Any crazy tours? I mean, anything you can share with? Any kind of? I know it's very cliche, but I'll ask anyway. Anything happening?
The highlight so far was Kanye showing up in Chicago.
That's right.
That was all done very last second. Like I didn't even know it was happening until he was in the room. So that was a thrill for me. I'm a huge fan. So
I guess that would be pretty exciting and amazing to anybody.
Yeah.
And you met a lot of people too. So I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's one person who I will be awed by every time I am in the room with them for the rest of my life. So
right, you know what? And you should get him on Longform too. I mean, if he can do Sway and can do Breakfast Club, he can come on Longform.
All right on.
Okay, so back to reality for a little bit. You talked about Longform. That's obviously the main reason why I wanted to have you on. So can you tell us what Longform is? A friend of mine.
Yeah.
Referred to you guys as an enigma because he didn't know your backstory. So if we can kind of get into what Longform is today, and then I'll kind of lead us into your backstory.
Well, I mean, we I actually take it as a compliment if someone finds Longform to be enigmatic, because we've really made an effort to not involve our own, not make it about us at all as much as possible, and try to highlight the writers and publications whose work we're sort of featuring.
Right.
So we started the site many years ago now, I think 2010, which is a very different time. Yeah,
no
iPad
doubt.
was just coming out. I feel like people reading on their phones wasn't really quite a thing yet. Most mobile web pages were really difficult to use.
Right.
So what we basically realized is that there was a lot of people who wanted to read on commutes or downtime or whatever, and everyone had this reading device in their phone, but it was hard to find good, longer, more in-depth articles to kind of keep stocked with. You know, particularly if you have like an hour commute or something, you're talking about like finding 5 good things to read every day.
Right.
So we started the site as a hobby, really, just kind of like stuff we were reading, putting it up there. You know, we realized that there was both good, great magazines like the New Yorker who were publishing stuff weekly, but that sometimes it was kind of hard to find for some people, or, they didn't know that stuff was coming out. And then there's this whole other universe of writing online all over the place, from blogs to, people publishing little journals to all kinds of different writing. And we wanted to put all that writing kind of on an equal footing in the same place. I don't know. Have you ever seen those books like Best American Sports Writing 2014?
Right.
Stuff?
Yeah.
Like, that's a great thing to have if you're like stuck on a plane or something. But those come out almost a year after. And we wanted to do something that updated every day and gave that kind of feeling of like endless great reading material. So we started the site as a hobby. It succeeded very quickly, beyond our expectations. And from there, we've just tried to build and make the experience better and better for people. We've invested a lot in developing the site's technology. We've had a free app out where you can read all the articles in the app. We're actually going to revamp that shortly. We have this podcast where we found also that people who came to our site a lot and were reading sort of our selections. We have a team of editors. It's over a dozen editors. They read dozens, if not hundreds, of articles a day. They discuss them, and we kind of come to an editorial consensus and post what we think are the best, and also a mix. We wanted to show a diversity at every level. So we found that people would come to the site and read it a lot and become sort of attached to the writers. Like, a lot of people would discover writers through the sites and then keep reading more and more of their stuff, become interested in them as creators and create an ongoing relationship. So we started this podcast to kind of give people an idea of what those writers' lives were like and what their careers were like. And I think it's been a really good asset for people who are starting off in writing to read all these different experiences that people have had in the world of writing. And our podcast is similarly, some people we've had legends of journalism on. We've also had people who just graduated from journalism school on. So it's a real range. It's a weekly show. So we're now over 200 episodes.
And that's how I initially first found you all, actually, was via the podcast. And then
right on. What brought you to the podcast? How did you find out about it?
Well, I like the long form interview format, one, but then but a buddy of mine, his name is Walt. He's with the Black Neighbors podcast. A buddy of mine. Okay. He actually is the one that hit me to your podcast, and then I saw that you had on Ira Glass, and then I was like, "Yep, these are my dudes." And then and then it kind of just went from there, and then it was just listening and kind of to your back catalog, and then because It's odd because I wish I had found you guys in 2010 because that's when I was reading more online. Now I feel like I consume, I consume a lot more of my information via podcast or, public radio or talk radio or whatever. I mean, I still read, obviously, but I feel like you guys got to fill the void back when I was reading more, those trying to find the Atlantic articles and, New Yorker and reading that kind of stuff. But anyway, so Walt hit me to you and he was really excited that I was going to have you on because, he's a big fan of Ezra Klein and and you. And
what's a nice thing about having such a large archive is, when someone comes, I can now say with 200 episodes, I'm like, you'll find someone you're interested in.
Right.
It might not be the newest episode, but we've got 3 episodes with Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Right. Exactly.
We've got 2 episodes with Malcolm Gladwell. Like, you're gonna find something of interest in there if you're an enthusiastic reader who's into this stuff.
For sure, yeah. Because like the Nicole Hannah-Jones, I believe they when you had her on, and then I think that may have prompted him to read the article, and they did a show about it. So everything kind of begets something, which is very good. And I reference you guys' Ira Glass interview all the time because specifically when he was talking about the public radio and the model for making money, the story he was telling. I don't know if you remember that part of the interview. Yeah. So I learned a lot from, a lot of your interviews, obviously, but from that one specifically, I reference when it comes to kind of, what I'm attempting to do with this show. And then obviously we're a somewhat a bastardization of what you guys are doing too, talking to important people and trying to have a long
don't feel
form.
bad about stealing the format because we just stole the format from Mark Maron.
Right, exactly,
when
right.
When we were starting the podcast, basically our entire creative prompt was the WTF podcast with writers instead of comedians.
You know what? And basically, yeah, and I'm just trying to do that with black writers and black comedians. And
fucking right on, man.
And then sprinkle in,
I actually don't have, this is a strange thing to say, but I don't listen to that many black podcasts, I guess you would say. But I know that there's a whole universe. I know a few people. I know the guys who do that Firestarter show, and I know the black guy who tips that does a podcast.
Yeah, right. I had them on.
I'm always amazed to find these sort of different pocket creative communities that sort of operate in their own, they're always having each other on, and it's so cool. Podcasts are in such a nascent state that it still has that kind of small town feel, and I really like that. I like that. Now I'm going to listen to your podcast, and I'll probably hear about some other podcast on it, and it'll all kind of keep circling around.
Exactly right. Yeah, no, it's a beautiful thing because we're able to kind of just duplicate and share and learn. Because I learned so much from listening to so many different shows that I never would have heard or thought of. Same thing with finding you guys just from another guy. So yeah, no, it's a nice way to connect. Like I was talking to who we have on. Well, we don't just have on black guests, obviously, but I forget who we had on. But anyway, so and they were talking about what they learned from our show about certain things, and a 61-year-old white woman was telling me she's listening to our Dear White America Pain is Progress episode. I kind of cringed a little bit because I'm like, oh, but I'm like, well, I'm the one that titled it that, and it's not like we're, but the fact that she says she learns from listening to our show, and then and people will learn about you, they'll learn about Longform. We've had people on from Serial and all kinds of stuff that we've been able to do just through this medium of podcasting. So and we're all, I'm living in Marion Shadow,
very low friction, which is nice.
Exactly.
It's not a huge act. You asked me to come on the show, and before I even listen to a couple of your episodes, I was like, sure, I'll do that, because it's it's going to be an hour of my life. It's not a huge deal. Same thing with our guests. We can get bigger names who would not maybe agree to a magazine profile, because I know I'm making a kind of a modest ask of them,
right? And
it might be something that could lead. People have come on our show and gotten book deals off of it, a lot of editors and publishers. So I know that there's a two-way street, that we're giving some value to them, they're giving some value to us. We can do it in an hour. There's something very elegant about the simplicity of the arrangement of just sort of two people talking over a microphone.
Man, that's a good way to say that. Yeah, I agree. That maybe and it's so different too. Because people get that connection. We tell stories, we talk about non sequiturs, go down rabbit holes, whatever. But it still forms this one connection.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a good. People always ask me about some of the guests and how I'm able to get them, and I'm like, well, sometimes people just say yes real easily,
Yeah.
And then some.
Yeah, I always tell people, I'm like, how do you do a show? I'm like, well, you get an email, and you get the email address of the person you want to have on, you email them and ask them to come on the show. So
right.
It's the whole thing, I don't even I actually very specifically try not to deal with publicists. And
ooh, that's a touchy subject.
I like to deal directly with people if possible. That's always the best experience. The minute there's a third party kind of in the room, it's it's a different operation.
Hey, tell me about it. To me, a very notable person from, let's just say, public radio and TV fame told me, yes, that they would come on the show. And then publicists got involved and put the kibosh on. I'm like, what? What? I'm like, I'll say she just told me yes. We just had a dialogue, person to person, and then now, so obviously,
I've had 10 varieties of that experience. The other question you get back a lot is, well, what are you going to ask? And for me, you've heard our show. The element of surprise is important. I want it to be a free-ranging conversation. I literally don't know what I'm going to ask at the start of most interviews. I read up, I try to know my shit, and I have an idea of stuff I'm interested in, but I'm not going to if I had to pre-vet every question that I asked on the podcast, it would be very boring.
Right.
So, and it's fine. If that's the deal, then that would be more appropriate for some other medium. You know, like for me, I'm like, even a huge guest, if we can't really get them on a sort of open, like casual dialogue terms, maybe it's not worth doing. You know, that's how I feel. Is our show's pretty long. We usually tape, an hour interview, and it's like, if someone's got 10 minutes for me, I'm usually just try not to do it. Because I think maybe in a year I can get that person to do an hour, you know?
Right. That's good perspective there. This one particular luminary, it really pissed me off. But anyway, I digress. So
the only ones that kind of concern me is there's like a generation of older writers who are in their 70s or 80s now who I really do feel like I would like to tape an interview with while they're still like up and about and have the energy for it. So some of those I've been like trying to be a little more organized and like, can we get this in now? Because already a few people who I've wanted to have on the show have passed away or are ill. So that's my mission for the year, is to get increase our older guests
okay.
run, which is always really interesting because you talk to like a 25-year-old. And you're like, so, like, what do you do? How did you get there? And it's like, I don't know, it's 5 minutes. And it's kind of like, well, I was in college, then I got an internship. It's not my job.
Right,
right. It's that same question of, like, we've had people on who are older, telling stories about, like, oh, I was like a beat reporter. I was a cop reporter reporting from within a police station in Chicago in the late 50s.
Right.
Like, wow, that's an interesting story. That's something I'd like to talk about on the show. What's it like being a police reporter, like in segregated Chicago?
I mean, that's the whole point of finding something compelling in that person's story. It's funny you mentioned that because I have anyway, I'll stop comparing. This is my last one. I kind of have a.
Dude, compare away. We're all the same.
Yeah, right. I mean, I guess it's the same thing with with Mary. I mean, he's got on Norman Lear. He gets all the old people, the old guys to pay homage because we won't have these stories, and in this medium, to try to preserve these stories. So that's extremely important.
I think about that a lot in terms of the power of someone's actual voice. In history, like some writers who have many published interviews, there's not actually a single document of them talking about their work in their own voice recorded on the web. So I think there's a real value for people who won't be around forever, and not just getting down these stories, but getting them down in their own words, in something that someone can listen to when they're gone, and really get an idea of like who they were, not just this is the Paris Review interview they did, but get an hour of audio, capture a little bit of their life.
You can get that tone, that context, that inflection. I mean, something
Absolutely.
that, as much as we like writers and magazine, journalists, they capture the emotion well, but, there's something about that tone. So that reminds me, I need to see what I can do to get Quincy Jones on the show. That reminds me. Yes. He's like the Godfather. Let's see. So talking about the site Longform and the collections of articles and stories there, I saw you say years ago that you'd be happy if the popular list accidentally turned out to be a reliable barometer for compelling storytelling. And I'm wondering if 6 years later, do you think you all have achieved that with that specific section?
Well, yes and no. We had to work on popular a lot and create a lot of algorithmic like filtering rules to make it like that. So I don't think it's like, I feel like I wanted it to be a certain way and I tricked it into being that way. But yeah, I mean, we've built this pretty robust new popular system that'll actually sort by like genre. And I'm pretty excited about it just because it allows I read a lot. I read sports writing. Like I'll watch a lot of sports, and we don't post that much sports stuff on Longform. Mostly because we want to be a general interest site. So if we post a sports article, it's got to be something that a general interest audience would find interesting.
Right.
An article about Alex Rodriguez retiring or something. Okay, that could have a general interest, but we're not doing like NFL preview 2016.
Right. Okay.
But there is a lot of good, really specific sports writing out there. Like more and more, there's more like niche publications that are doing, this is just a American soccer magazine. Like they got Howler, they have all sorts of different interesting stuff going on. So something like our sports popular list can catch that stuff and create an index of really interesting writing on any topic. And right now it's only set up to the big topics like sports or business, but we can drill it down pretty finely. I could, give pretty much like something like, the most popular tennis articles or the most popular sex articles at any given moment. And I think being able to have that sort of a lens on the internet is going to be useful in the future. Looking at the internet not as just sort of a unruly mess, but looking at it as a library and trying to treat it as such, trying to figure out how to catalog all this incredible writing in a more long-term and user-friendly way for readers is really what we're trying to do. And Popular, I think, will be a big part of that as we go forward.
I like that answer. See, that leads to a lot of different questions, actually, because you guys, and you may have mentioned this earlier, or I may have seen this somewhere else too, but because your whole goal was to cut out to trim the fat, right? To just give
Yes.
There are, and I'm finding, especially doing this show, there are so many with Twitter and all that. It's like, oh wow, this is a great article by someone who I've never heard of, but they've got 17 great published articles, between however many publications. So you guys actually have algorithms and specific curation tools that navigate through these.
We're able to basically extract metadata from the articles. Who wrote it? When was it published? What's the topic, right? And that allows us to create indexes so I can see something like, what is this person written, not just for the Atlantic, but across the entire internet. And when you go on our website right now, you only see the articles that we've selected, that we've featured. That's a conscious decision to not sort of hit people with everything. But we do have that archive that includes everything, not just the articles we've featured, their entire publishing history. And as we go forward, I think we'll try and, roll out a little bit more of that stuff. But we still always want the focus of the site to be the curated element, because that's what we've heard consistently from users was, don't show me all the articles. I already can see all the articles. That's the internet. Show me the thinnest cross section of them, because that's a user experience that I gravitate towards. So that's really our challenge, I think, with the site, is how to keep our eye on everything, but only show people the very best.
Okay, now that's curation at its finest, right? Okay, I got you. Okay,
it has pitfalls too,
Well, because
we're two white men who started this company, and we live in Brooklyn.
Right.
I get emails all the time from people in Europe who are like, I love your site, but it's so American centric. Why do you not care about the world? Why are you not publishing more? We experience, the site is curated, but it's curated by humans, and it has biases as a result, and we're aware of that. And I do think race is in some ways the biggest bias of them all. The fact that the site is edited by a mostly white team is, it is troubling, and we've thought a lot about ways, we've tried to make the guests on the podcast as diverse as we can, and I don't think we've done an amazing job, but I think we're improving at it. But that's sort of the interesting thing about curation, is that it's, if we used an algorithm, I could just be like, hey, it wasn't me, it was the algorithm.
Right.
But it is done by people, so that brings up all of the questions about humans and what their biases are and what they gravitate towards.
And with that, is there anything that you can point to specifically about the stories that are, I guess, the distinction between stories that are shared versus the stories that are actually read?
Well, yes. The first thing I can say is you often will see people tweeting out stories that are take a half an hour to read 2 or 3 minutes after they came out and be like, this is incredible. So there's clearly people who are tweeting before they read.
Right.
There's no question about that. But in a larger sense about what people read versus what they share, what people read is very consistent. People really like sex, and they really like crime. Those genres will outperform anything in terms of readers.
Right.
You can get the most highbrow readers around, and you still put a story that's got a murder in it, or like a con man. You put a story that has like a real like sexual hook to it. Those stories just do really well. In terms of what people share, I think people tend to share a little bit more on the sort of, I don't want to say show-offy, but people like to share stuff that creates an impression of who they are. And that can be a little more highbrow than maybe what actually gets read on average. And people will gravitate towards prestige kind of articles. So those are trends we see. But for the most part, like, we actually find that almost nothing gets no interest. Like, most people come on the site and don't spend a lot of time picking which article they want to read. Part of the appeal of the site is you go on it and just like trust our recommendation. That's our ideal user. Is someone who just goes on it and clicks and reads something. Actually, one of our most popular new features is our random button. So you can click a button on our sidebar now, and it'll just give you a random article from 3,000 or 4,000 articles that are in the archive. And that's actually a super popular way to read. And some of those articles are years old now. Okay.
I kind of like that. Yeah. The kind of choose your own adventure, just trust us. And, we got you,
Well, when I presented when there was a brief period where we thought, we'll raise some money in Silicon Valley to sort of expand some of the technical elements of the site. And it was interesting bringing the product on the road and talking to investors, because the way a Silicon Valley investor sort of looks at the product, they think more like, can't you get an algorithm to like pick the best? Like, they look at it as sort of an automation problem of, you need to customize the best reading material for each unique person. And like, if they like sports, just give them sports articles. And if they like this, give them that. And that's sort of the opposite of our opinion. By being a general interest site and by being a curated site, we want to expose you to things that you would not otherwise be exposed to. And we want people who are open to me, the best article is something that's totally unexpected for me. Sometimes people will say, read something like a New Yorker feature, let's say a New Yorker profile of an artist.
Right.
An algorithm, if you like that article, would give you more profiles of that artist. But I just read the New Yorker profile of that artist. I just read the best thing ever written about that artist. I don't want the 6 worst pieces. What I want is more incredible profiles of artists, maybe.
Right,
that's not something an algorithm can necessarily do. That might be something that you would want to look in our archive. We'll have a collection of, like, artist profiles, and we'll give you 6 of them. So almost nothing about what we do, I think, can be totally automated. Like, that's a fundamental belief of mine. It's at people's intellects are are too high up to be put into a box with an algorithm. And so it reminds me of like going to a video store when I was a kid. I don't know. You used to go to video stores that had like the like staff picks. Sometimes people in the video store what movies they like.
Right.
That stuff works. Those are always the like most popular like places in a video store.
Yeah, and, that's why I'm watching Ernest Goes to Jail. I mean.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like it's not because the person at the video store is a great critic or something. It's just that weird human touch that if you get another human to give you a small sampling of something, that means a lot more, I think, to people than an algorithm. So we've very much embraced that idea in designing what we do. I mean, I wish algorithms worked because it would be less work for us. But instead, we just have people reading and talking, and we post 4 stories a day based on that. And some days are slow, some days there's a lot of stuff.
So on this show, we talk to a lot of storytellers, and so I'm curious, what makes a story compelling to you? Like, if you had to pick, and that may be too specific, but for you personally, and as someone who curates, like, what are the key points that you're looking for in those 4 articles? I'm sure it changes from interest to interest, but
sure. Well, when I look across the 4, I'm looking for an interesting mix. I don't want to overlap myself. I don't want 2 stories of about the war in Syria in the same day. If we're going to have a story about the war in Syria or a story about ISIS, I want to have a weird story about the history of spam or something
Okay.
also in that set, because I want to give people a total polar option.
Okay.
So that's one element, is trying to create a mix. But in terms of what really makes a story compelling, the single greatest sign to me when I'm reading is when I want to tell someone about a story. And I don't mean I want to like tweet it out or put it on my Facebook page. I mean like the next person I see, I'm like, yo, wait, did you see this thing? It's like this guy did it. Like, so I start telling the story, or you start like get weirdly enthusiastic. The way people get like, sometimes when people are watching serial TV and they just like can't handle themselves and they like want to spoiler it to other people just because they like want to talk about it so much. That's a great sign to me in a story.
Okay.
If it gets that kind of a reaction, for me, it's going to get that kind of a reaction for other people. And that's like, those are the stories that really take off, or the ones that have that weird kind of like, I got to tell someone about this quality.
I like that. That's a very good, like, oh yeah, no shit. I can't wait to get this out. Okay. I can
I guess
dig that.
that's word of mouth. I mean, I guess that's what you call word of mouth. But people don't think about articles as a word of mouth medium. So,
especially not today with the.
No. So when I just hear it sort of naturally emerging, or it elicits that reaction into me, that's a very powerful sign to me that there's something to it.
No, I agree. And obviously, I mean, we're always talking about engaging, and so keeping up with the changing landscape of digital media and how to retain and engage audiences. And speaking of, we talked obviously about the two white guys in Brooklyn, the race thing a little bit, but I'm just wondering, you mentioned that being a concern or thought of yours, including that. And then overall, where do you guys see how do you keep evolving in this ever changing and growing digital media? Do you worry about that, or have you?
One of the nice things about having been around for so long is that we have a sort of a loyal and built-in audience now. So it's not like every day I'm trying to attract new people to the site.
Right.
In many ways, every day I'm trying to do a great job for the people who already come. That's like a great place to be on the internet, because it means we don't have to we don't have to link bait. We don't have to do any of that stuff.
Right.
We were there fairly early, so we've got that. So thank you to all those people who come every day. They're the people who make it easy for us to do a good job, because we don't really have to think so much about like building traffic.
Okay.
But in terms of evolving, we just know that it's going to change. So we don't do anything we don't build any buildings that are going to get knocked over in an earthquake. Early on in the site, people would say, well, it's great now, but everything's going to go behind the paywall next year. Like, I have inside sources in Condé Nast, and like basically all the magazines are going to go behind the paywall. What are you going to do then? You'll have to shut down. And we knew. We're like, oh God, is that true? We don't know. And at different times, people have brought up sort of different stumbling blocks and told me like where media is going, and that it's going to make us irrelevant, or we're going to have to change what we do. And we try to stay kind of nimble and flexible. No one is. We don't have a 20-year lease on an office space. We don't spend a ton of money. We keep a very tight financial ship and are pretty conservative about it. So if stuff changes, then we'll just build products that match the new thing. When we were starting out, I think apps was a big thing. We really wanted to have an app because it seemed like that's where people are reading. Today, I don't even know if we would do an app. You know? Actually, I see most people kind of reading in Twitter and Facebook and in their browser, and maybe they don't want a reading app. It all changes over time, and so we just try to stay in a place where we haven't committed a lot of resources to something that's going to be obsolete, and where we can keep doing new stuff that's cool. I mean, if I had a bag of money and a year of my life, I have a lot of cool stuff I think we could do. And for us now, it's just a question of time and resources. I'm out on the road with Francis and the Lights right now. My partner, Max, I don't know if you know, Max is doing a podcast with Hillary Clinton.
Oh, is that what? Okay, I didn't know. How did I know of Max. I knew of the Hillary Clinton podcast. I guess I didn't put two and two together.
Max is hosting and producing Hillary Clinton's podcast. He's also got a new company, Pineapple Media, that does podcasts for clients.
Okay,
and is going to be doing original podcasts. So, we're not at a loss for cool stuff to do in projects, and we've made a really firm commitment to keep doing long form and to not let long form be the kind of thing where it just kind of dies out, because people aren't keeping their eye on it. We've budgeted it in such a way that we can hire people to fill in, and we can keep it going, because I'd like it to be a 25-year project. I think that would be amazing.
Well, of course. I mean, in this age, to create something, to find a need and to really fill that, and then find your niche. And then, well, you've noted previously that Longform will never have the kind of scale that apps like Facebook or Twitter have, and that you found some realization, and having that realization is an indicator of the company's success. And I think you've kind of just talked about that a little bit there.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
So speaking of the 800-pound gorilla, Facebook, they've been in the news here recently, and I wanted to see if I get your thoughts on the two stories that are kind of out there on Facebook in the last 5 or 7 days or so. There was an article by Anthony Ha in TechCrunch, and I'll just read his little opening line and then see if you can comment on these if you don't mind. So he said, so speaking of Facebook, he says, for one thing, the company admitted that due to an error, it has been significantly inflating its reports on average video view times. For another, they've Oculus founder Palmer Luckey is backing pro-Donald Trump organization Nimble America, a group dedicated to promoting anti-Hillary Clinton memes. So there's so much in those two things, because I just found out what shit.
Like the entire internet in two stories.
Exactly. I mean, so I guess let's start with the first story, because I know you commented on.
I'd say the first one is probably one that I have more, or something I've thought about more.
Okay.
The second one is just like, fuck that guy.
Right.
The first one, I mean, saying that you have an error that you've been over-reporting your video metrics is a little bit like saying, like, you work at a McDonald's and due to an error, you've been taking $20 out of the register every day. Like, I don't really see it in any other way than that. Like, you have an error that you've been overcharging, you've been taking people's money for video views that have never occurred. Like, I simply refuse to believe that a company of Facebook's scale just, like, bungled their metrics in that kind of a way. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I would look at that story as they have knowingly been over-reporting their video metrics. But it's kind of emblematic of what I see as the larger. I'm not a super pro or anti-Facebook person. I mean, I think all of these companies kind of have their own bag that they come with.
Right.
The way that it's instructive to me about the way that media companies have chased Facebook, where Facebook creates these new metrics, engagement metrics within Facebook or video plays. And then you see people basing their entire creative operations around generating numbers in that system. A system that is totally arbitrary and made up in the first place, and we now know to be gamed. Right. Like those video views, and that's the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's happening behind that Wizard of Oz screen at Facebook. There's also all sorts of other things that you don't know about what appears and what not. So what you should learn from this story is no one knows how Facebook works. Maybe even Facebook doesn't fully know how Facebook works. Why would you spend years in the prime of your life just trying to create content that would in some way interact with that system? That's what I take from it.
Yeah, I'm glad you explained it that way, because if you can't trust what they're showing you, then you're basing your amount of exposure on numbers that aren't real. It's crazy.
Well, and I think in a larger sense, any value you create in Facebook is only sort of there insofar as, the current setup of Facebook. I mean, you were asking me about how we saw evolving, and one of our strategies for evolving is to just do our own thing and not sort of worry about the internet as a whole. But
right.
You know that Facebook is going to keep changing rapidly, because that's the ethos of the company, is they're going to keep changing stuff. So the fact that you're getting massive video plays on your meme, your jokey man makes a pancake video on Facebook right now, that might be worth $1 today and a penny tomorrow.
Right.
None of that stuff has a stable value. I mean, nothing about the internet and money is stable, but particularly I would say these kind of new metrics, like something like a looping video play. I'll also note even if they didn't over-report those numbers, those videos the play reporting is disingenuous. It's auto-playing while someone's scrolling through.
Right.
People don't have a choice whether to play it or not. So to compare a video play, like I'll give an example. We released Francis and Lights released a video for a song we did called "Friends" with Bon Iver. That video has 2 million and something plays on YouTube. Every single one of those plays is a person going to that page and hitting play and watching the music video.
Right.
I don't think Facebook can say when Facebook says this video was played 2 million and something times, I have no idea what that means. Does it mean people scrolled through it for 1 second in their feed? And also, was Facebook over-reporting it? It's kind of annoying, I guess, if you make actual things for the internet, that the metrics of the internet are basically scammer metrics. Like, the fact that Facebook has been over-reporting their views, all it really means is that Facebook has been, like, lying about its own popularity. Like,
right. As if it needed to, by the way,
Yeah, as if it needed to, and it was probably a short-term moneymaker. But if you get in the business of making Facebook videos right now, you're partnering with a company that already is probably moved on. Probably like there's a master plan in the like deep bowels of the Facebook cave that describes when they moved past looping streaming video. You know, I mean, actually, I guess that stuff probably does happen on the fly. I just think like whatever they're doing right now is dated. And the fact that they're even admitting this stuff about the video plays probably means that they're like not deeply invested in that space in the long run. Because if they were, I think they would be a little more worried about the fact that they, just admitted that they were lying about it. I will say also, I have some friends who work at Facebook. They're all good people. I don't actually think that this is like a great example of like, I don't think it reflects poorly on the entire project. I just think it's kind of the name of the game with this kind of stuff. Everything about metrics that I've ever seen on the internet is scammy. Like, and even before the internet, like magazine subscriptions.
Right.
When people talk about subscriptions in magazines and they mail a magazine to your house, that counts as like 2.2 readers because there's like somehow a perception that like someone's going to come over and you're going to be like, hey, check out my magazine.
Right. Yes.
Magazine industry bills.
Wow.
They count more than one person per magazine. So all this stuff's made up. I don't know. Just it's crazy. I don't even have like anything intellectual to say about it. It's like it's surprising when you become an adult and you realize that adults are not running the world in a rational manner.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yes. The people who should establish in your contemporaries, who definitely should, who have so much power too. Yeah, they just.
Someone was in that room at the magazine convention and they were like, what should we set the circulation rate at? And there was a very obvious one, which would be one person per magazine.
Right.
And someone else said, what if we did 2.2 per people per magazine? Think what we could bill. And so they set the entire industry on this weird offset where there's not any real transparency now. Now, all the prices are based on, an open market. So it's not like 2.2 is like a fixed point.
Right.
But that's just how they decided to do these negotiations, is with like funny money numbers. It's like you're banking, but like your money's in like Disney dollars, and the Disney dollar is not quite 1-to-1 with the dollar.
Right. No, that's it's a good description. Yeah, I mean, I kind of feels like that anyway sometimes, but yeah, but no, okay.
And in terms of that guy and his like anti-Facebook memes, or no, not anti-Hillary memes. I think that there's a very disturbing trend of capital ending up in the hands of technology creators who are pretty well versed in game theory and what you can do with a sort of limitless budget. And that's not the most disturbing example. The most disturbing example is Peter Thiel.
Right.
Funding personally going after journalists. I can't. Will this be out by Wednesday? Will this come out after Wednesday?
What's Wednesday? Yes. Well, I mean, actually, it'll come out between now and Wednesday. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. Well, I won't say who the guest is, but if you're interested in this issue, listen to the Longform podcast this week. My guest is someone who played a role in this. But many people know that Peter Thiel was instrumental in shutting down Gawker, has hired a single law firm.
Okay, because Peter Thiel, he linked up with, because he sued them numerous times and then linked up with Hulk Hogan and financed that,
exactly.
right?
So
okay.
He's basically been looking for an end to sue them. He's pursued multiple cases, and he has one firm that it now appears is Gawker was not the only target. It appears they're going after Gabriel Sherman from New York Magazine, who revealed all the Roger Ailes stuff.
Okay.
So now, whatever you think about Gawker, I encourage you to listen to this week's Longform podcast. That may change your mind about certain things about Gawker and about that whole case, I think.
Interesting.
But
okay.
Regardless of what you think about Gawker, Gabriel Sherman, also been on the Longform podcast, one of the most intelligent reporters I know, and someone whose integrity has never been questioned by anyone except Roger Ailes. And also someone who Roger Ailes has personally attacked before. So what you see with these lawsuits and this really a single firm with a budget that seems limitless is whether there's merit or not, you can sort of filibuster the legal system if you have enough money. Whether they win against Gabriel Sherman or not, they're going to create problems for his life, and they're going to make a journalist think twice about going against people who have that kind of institutional power and backing, who can create endless lawsuits to ruin your life, literally ruin your life if they want to, whether those lawsuits have merit or not. So when I see this like Oculus kid, pumping money into anti-Hillary memes, to me I'm like, fuck this kid. But this kid is like he's a baby. The tactics will improve. Like he was
he's 20.
Money to that meme factory again because I didn't get any results for me.
Right.
Like, he doesn't know what he's doing yet. But the tactic of I have infinite resources and I can put them towards this stuff, I think is pretty disturbing. And I think that people should be held accountable for it. I think he should be ostracized. Like, I think he should feel bad about what he did, and people who are thinking about buying a Oculus headset should know that, like, hey, this guy's an asshole,
Right.
Like, this is who you're dealing with. These are people who have who are ruthless and have no scruples about dedicating money. Like, who pays money to do, like, 4chan kind of bulletin boards? Who are you? Like, how can you feel good about it? Even if I had heard that dude was, like, funding an anti-Donald Trump meme factory, I would still be like, don't pay meme dudes.
Right.
This is going to be terrible for the world. These people are, like, these are professional trolls. You're funding trolling. And that's how I look at a lot of this stuff. Like, yes, that Peter Thiel lawsuit won because it was in Florida. And, like, that's Florida for you.
Right.
But in a larger sense, he would have won even if he had lost the suit because he caused so much trouble. And that's, to me, like, trolling at its core is when you're looking for a response. You're trying to provoke. You're not actually, you have no goal but to antagonize. And that's the common thread I see among all of this stuff, is to antagonize people enough till the point where they're like, whatever you want, like, I'm not gonna fuck with you.
It's so ironic because last night I said I literally just found out what shit posting was, and because it has to do with these memes on Reply All's latest episode. They were talking about it, and because there was a Pepe meme going around, and I didn't even know what Pepe was either. That's that weird frog with the blonde hair. Well, anyway, so so this whole anti-Hillary Clinton and what these memes are, this 4chan, this Reddit, this weird shit that these trolls are doing. Like, people say the alt-right or whatever, but it's some scary stuff though, man, because if they've got money by a 24-year-old VR founder, who's out here, and people should look up what shitposting is. So if they don't know, but it's making these terrible memes, racist, Hitler, all kinds of to incite, like you said, for no real purpose, to just incite and troll everyone. You know what I mean? So So anyways, okay. Well, no, I appreciate you weighing in on that.
My phone MC is down
to
1%
perfect.
here. So,
Cool.
It may be my logical stopping point insofar as actually getting a goodbye in here rather than just dropping off of the map here.
All good. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. This has been really interesting. I'm subscribed to the show now, so maybe I'll call in again sometime and give you a response to one of the episodes.
Hey, awesome, man. And if you need to add a little color to Longform, holla at your boy.
I got you.
Okay.
All right on, man.
All right, man. Hey, good luck, man. Be safe out there. Have fun. Peace, man. Appreciate you.
Again, farewellstarlight.com. Listen to the album. I'm promoting here. Promoting big time.
Oh, yeah. Farewellstarlight.com. We'll put that in the show notes, and we'll put
Longform.org, farewellstarlight.com. Thank you so much.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You too, man. Peace.
All right.
All right, welcome back. Hope you guys enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Really a pleasure to have on Aaron Lammer. Make sure you check out longform.org. Really great collection of stories there, as you mentioned. Finally curated for your reading pleasure. Also check out that Francis Starlight. Farewell Starlight is the name of the album. Farewellstarlight.com. Check that out. You'll enjoy that music. Go to iTunes, leave a 5-star rating review. Go to Facebook and like the page. It's facebook.com/Vocal Minority Report. Follow us on Twitter @Vocal Report. Send an email to the show, vocalreport@gmail.com. And make sure you check out our sponsor, Audible. You can use your free trial, audible.com/Vocal Report. We'll talk to you next episode. Peace.
This has been a Vocal Neighbors production.